of teens in a very visually attractive, entertaining, and edifying way in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. We have also had tens of thousands of people tell us of the significant impact of becoming the creative force of their own lives through internalizing the 7 habits. 76 of them shared the details of their fascinating stories of courage and inspiration in living the 7 habits, showing the transforming power of the principles in all kinds of personal, family, and organizational settings regardless of their circumstances, organizational position, or prior life experiences. What have you learned about the 7 habits since the book's release? I have learned or had reinforced many things. I'll briefly mention 10 learnings. 1. The importance of understanding the difference between principles and values. Principles are natural laws that are external to us and that ultimately control the consequences of our actions. Values are internal and subjective and represent that which we feel strongest about in guiding our behavior. Hopefully we will come to value principles, so that we get the results we want now in a way that enables us to get even greater results in the future, which is how I define effectiveness. Everyone has values, even criminal gangs have values. Values govern people's behavior, but principles govern the consequences of those behaviors. Principles are independent of us. They operate regardless of our awareness of them, acceptance of them, liking of them, belief in them, or obeying of them. I have come to believe that humility is the mother of all virtues. Humility says we are not in control, principles are in control, therefore we submit ourselves to principles. Pride says that we are in control, and since our values govern our behavior, we can simply do life our way. We may do so, but the consequences of our behavior flow from principles, not our values. Therefore we should value principles. 2. From experiences all over the world with this material, I have come to see the universal nature of the principles undergirding this material. Illustrations and practices may vary and are culturally specific, but the principles are the same. I have found the principles contained in the 7 habits in all 6 major world religions and have actually drawn upon quotations from sacred writings of those religions when teaching in those cultures. I have done this in the Middle East, India, Asia, Australia and the South Pacific, South America, Europe, North America, Africa, and among Native Americans and other indigenous peoples. All of us, men and women alike, face similar problems, have similar needs, and internally resonate with the underlying principles. There is an internal sense of the principle of justice or win/win. There is an internal moral sense of the principle of responsibility, of the principle of purpose, of integrity, of respect, of cooperation, of communication, of renewal. These are universal. But practices are not. They are situationally specific. Every culture interprets universal principles in unique ways. 3. I have come to see the organizational implications of the 7 habits, although, in the strict technical sense, an organization does not have habits. Its culture has norms or mores or social codes, which represent habits. An organization also has established systems, processes, and procedures. These represent habits. In fact, in the last analysis, all behavior is personal. It is individual, even though it often is part of collective behavior in the form of decisions made by management regarding structure and systems, processes and practices. We have worked with thousands of organizations in most every industry and profession and have found that the same basic principles contained in the 7 habits apply and define effectiveness. 4. You can teach all 7 habits by starting with any one habit. And you can also teach one habit in a way that leads to the teaching of the other 6. It's like a hologram where the whole is contained in a part and the part is contained in a whole. 5. Even though the 7 habits represents an inside-out approach, it works most successfully when you start with the outside challenge and then take the inside-out approach. In other words, if you are having a relationship challenge, say a breakdown of communication and trust, this will define the nature of the needed inside-out approach in winning the kind of private victory that enables the public victory meeting that challenge. This is the reason I often teach habits 4, 5, and 6 before I teach habits 1, 2, and 3. 6. Interdependence is 10 times more difficult than independence. It demands so much more mental and emotional independence to think win/win when another person is into win/lose, to seek to understand first when everything inside you cries out for understanding, and to search for a better third alternative when compromise is so much easier. In other words, to work successfully with others in creative cooperative ways requires an enormous amount of independence, internal security, and self-mastery. Otherwise, what we call interdependency is really counterdependency, where people do the opposite to assert their independence, Or codependency, where they literally need the other person's weakness to fulfill their need and to justify their own weakness. 7. You can pretty well summarize the first 3 habits with the expression make and keep a promise. And you can pretty well summarize the next 3 habits with the expression involve others in the problem and work out the solution together. 8. The 7 habits represents a new language even though there are fewer than a dozen unique words or phrases. This new language becomes a code, a shorthand way of saying a great deal. When you say to another, was that a deposit or a withdrawal? Is that reactive or proactive? Is that synergistic or a compromise? Is that win/win or win/lose or lose/win? Is that putting first things first or second things first? Is that beginning with the means in mind or the end in mind? I've seen entire cultures transformed by a wide understanding of and commitment to the principles and concepts symbolized by these very special code words. 9. Integrity is a higher value than loyalty. Or better put, integrity is the highest form of loyalty. Integrity means being integrated or centered on principles, not on people, organizations, or even family. You will find that the root of most issues that people are dealing with is it popular, acceptable, political, or is it right? When we prioritize being loyal to a person or group over doing what we feel to be right, we lose integrity. We may temporarily gain popularity or build loyalty, but, downstream, this loss of integrity will undermine even those relationships. It's like bad-mouthing someone behind their back. The person you are temporarily united with through bad-mouthing someone else knows you would bad-mouth them under different pressures and circumstances. In a sense, the first 3 habits represent integrity and the next 3 loyalty, but they are totally interwoven. Over time, integrity produces loyalty. If you attempt to reverse them and go for loyalty first, you will find yourself temporizing and compromising integrity. It's better to be trusted than to be liked. Ultimately, trust and respect will generally produce love. 10. Living the 7 habits is a constant struggle for everyone. Everyone falters from time to time on each of the 7 and sometimes all 7 simultaneously. They really are simple to understand but difficult to consistently practice. They are common sense, but what is common sense is not always common practice. Which habit do you personally have the greatest difficulty with? Habit 5. When I am really tired and already convinced I'm right, I really don't want to listen. I may even pretend to listen. Basically, I am guilty of the same thing I talk about, listening with the intent to reply, not to understand. In fact, in some sense, I struggle almost daily with all 7 habits. I have conquered none of them. I see them more as life principles that we never really master, and that the closer we come to their mastery, the more aware we become of how far we really have yet to go. It's like the more you know you don't know. This is why I often gave my university students 50% of the grade for the quality of their questions and the other 50% for the quality of their answer to their questions. Their true level of knowledge is better revealed that way. Similarly, the 7 habits represents an upward cycle. Habit 1 at a high level is vastly different from habit 1 at a lower level. To be proactive at the beginning level may only be awareness of the space between stimulus and response. At the next level it may involve a choice such as, not to get back at or to get even. At the next level, to give feedback. At the next level, to ask forgiveness. At the next level, to forgive. At the next, to forgive parents. At the next level, to forgive dead parents. And the next level, to simply not take offense. You're the vice chairman of Franklin Covey Company. Does Franklin Covey live the 7 habits? We try to. Continually trying to live what we teach is one of our most fundamental values. But we don't do it perfectly. Like any other business, we're challenged by changing market realities and by integrating the 2 cultures of the former Covey Leadership Center and Franklin Quest. The merger took place in the summer of 1997. It takes time, patience, and persistence in applying the principles, and the true test of our success will be in the long run. No snapshot will give an accurate picture. Any airplane is off track much of the time but just keeps coming back to the flight plan. Eventually, it arrives at its destination. This is true with all of us as individuals, families, or organizations. The key is to have an end in mind and a shared commitment to constant feedback and constant course correction. Why 7? Why not 6 or 8 or 10 or 15? What is so sacred about 7? Nothing is sacred about 7, it just so happens that the 3 private victory habits, freedom to choose, choice, action, precede the 3 public victory habits, respect, understanding, creation, and then there is one to renew the rest, and that equals 7. When asked this question, I've always said if there were some other desirable